Hi, I'm Darren Miles with Darren Miles Photography, based here in beautiful, sunny Naples, Florida. And this is one of the most anticipated lenses that will come out for the Micro Four Thirds system this year. And it's arguably one of the most important to come out for the system in years. This is the Olympus 7-14mm f2.8 Pro Series lens, and this is the third in Olympus's high-end Pro Series line. And it's a beauty, clearly aimed at professional real estate, landscape, and architectural photographers with promises of robust build and tremendous optics. But is there enough here to convince even the most ardent of professional DSLR diehards, wide-angle diehards, to finally make the jump into the compact and lightweight world of Micro Four Thirds? Well, we're going to spend the next 10 to 12 minutes to find out. Okay, so first up is build quality. And consistent with the other Pro Series lenses, build quality is simply top-notch. The Pro Series line are marketed similarly to Canon's L Series lenses or Sigma's A Series lenses, which is to say the Pro line from Olympus is top shelf, just a top shelf line of lenses, the creme de la creme. It's made out of metal and it's really tightly assembled. It's also heavy for a Micro Four Thirds lens, tipping the scale at nearly 1.2 pounds. Now that's lightweight when compared to DSLR wide-angle lenses, but it's really heavy for Micro Four Thirds. The focus ring is really grippy and buttercream smooth. It's just velvety and sublime, perfectly dampened and just reeks of quality. The focus ring is also well dampened and just as fluid, both offering the perfect amount of resistance. Now, like the other Pro Series lines of lenses before it, Olympus has included this very well executed manual to auto focus clutch mechanism that allows us to switch on the fly between manual and autofocus. Now, other lens manufacturers have attempted to do this with varying degrees of success. For example, Tokina utilizes this kind of clutch mechanism, and depending on the lens, it either works really well, like the 100mm f2.8 macro, or really poorly, like the 16-28 f2.8. This is not the case with Olympus. The focus clutch mechanism is extremely well refined and works really well. Now, on the inside, there are 14 elements arranged in 11 groups, and that formula includes 2 aspherical ED lenses, 1 DSA lens, 1 aspherical lens, 3 super ED lenses, 1 ED lens, and 2 HR lenses. There are also 7 rounded aperture blades for pleasing out-of-focus bokeh rendering. Now, even though we've mentioned this in the past, bokeh qualities aren't usually a defining factor for ultra-wide-angle lenses. Now, speaking of the aperture, it ranges from f2.8 to f22. The lens hood is built in and permanently attached to the lens. Even the lens cap, like the previous Pro lenses, is built like a hockey puck, though this one's a little bit thinner, but you could use it in a game of air hockey. It's pretty impressive. Now, and to cap it off, like other Pro Series lenses, the 7-14 is weather sealed in 11 separate locations. Now, on the downside, check out that front element. Given the bulbous nature of it, it makes attaching traditional filters a no-go. But that's hardly a surprise and a common and expected feature with ultra-wide-angle lenses. So all in, it's downright splendid. And like the 40-150, Olympus is literally attempting to redefine the very definition of high build quality. And as such, the 7-14 is easily a 10 out of 10 for build. So next up is AF speed and accuracy. If you watch my channel for a while, then you probably noticed that I've mentioned on more than one occasion that with wide-angle lenses, the goal is usually to get as much in focus in the scene as possible, meaning a really wide depth of field, somewhere between f6.3 and f11, give or take. So focus speed becomes less and less of an issue and not a deal breaker if it's slower than, say, a Canon ultrasonic. Now that said, Olympus has included the high-speed Imager AF system, which in addition to being lightning quick and accurate, is also movie and still compatible, meaning smooth focusing in movie mode. But let me just demo the AF for you here real quick, just to show you what it can do. So we're going to focus on something far away. You hear that? It's pretty quick. The beep's on. And then we're going to focus on something really close. And speaking of really close, the minimum focus distance for this thing is only 0.2 meters, or just about 8 inches from the front element. That's really close. It can actually give the 7-14 some value as a macro lens, which makes the lens even more versatile beyond its obvious use for wide-angle shooting. Now again, even though slower focus speed on a wide-angle lens isn't necessarily a deal breaker for most wide-angle shooting, it's really nice to have fast AF when and if you ever need it. As for AF speed and accuracy, really there's nothing to fault here. and I find myself just heaping more and more praise onto the 7-14. And as such, for AF speed and accuracy, the 7-14 gets another perfect 10 out of 10. So next up is optical quality and the quality of the results. It's built like a well-oiled machine, and the autofocus is fast and deadly accurate. But what it really comes down to are the optics. And like the other Pro Series lenses, the 7-14 does not disappoint in the optics department. In fact, I'm getting edge-to-edge sharpness across the frame at nearly all apertures. Now, again, keep in mind, I shoot a ton of real estate photography, and I do it for a living. And I'm trying to get everything in focus, meaning I'm most often shooting at around f6.3 to f8, maybe even f11. And given the results, a lens like this is priceless for my business. And speaking of the results, they are, to my eye, nothing short of extraordinary. Now, flare is reasonably well controlled, especially when compared to the Panasonic 7-14 f4, which is this lens's obvious main competitor. Additionally, the chromatic aberration performance just eats the Panasonic for breakfast. And those were the two key areas that prevented me personally, from continuing to use the 7-14 from Panasonic in my professional work. But as with all of my reviews, rather than me explaining the optical quality, I'd rather just demonstrate the optical quality. The next 2 to 3 minutes will be a series of stills and video clips showcasing the optical qualities of the Olympus 7-14mm f2.8 Pro Series lens. And in a word, wow. Wow. So last up, and arguably most important, is value. Now, as Micro Four Thirds has come of age as a system, so have the lenses that coincide it. It used to be unusual for a Micro Four Thirds lens to break the $1,000 barrier, and as such, anything that costs more than $1,000 would automatically become a suspect value. But in the last year or so, I think it's pretty safe to say that that's really no longer the case, as it's no longer unusual for high-quality lenses for the system to exceed $1,000 or $1,400 or more. For example, the Olympus 40-150 Pro lens is a $1,499 lens. The Panasonic 42.5 Nocticron f1.2 is nearly $1,400. And there's a whole bunch of lenses priced right at $1,000, which used to be the top tier for micro four thirds. Now, to be clear, these types of lenses are all clearly targeting professionals who make their living from photography. And as such, $1,299 for a lens like this no longer seems as outrageous as it used to be, especially when you consider the build and the optical quality of the 7-14 f2.8. Of course, $1,299 is not cheap, but for that price, you get a constant f2.8 aperture, stellar optical quality, awesome build quality, which is also dust and weather sealed, sublime handling, etc. You get the idea. Olympus's Pro Series line of lenses are very quickly becoming the Porsche of high-performance lenses for the Micro Four Thirds system. Though it's pricey, I view the 7-14 as a pretty good value, especially when you consider what you get for the money. So for value, the 7-14 f2.8 Pro gets a 9.5 out of 10. Okay, so to wrap up this review, we gave the Olympus 7-14mm f2.8 Pro Series lens a 49 out of 50 in our coveted Editor's Choice Award. It also becomes just the second lens to achieve such a score. It's nice to see Olympus finally giving Panasonic some competition in the ultra-wide angle lens category for Micro Four Thirds. Now, just a side note, this is a pre-production model, though I'm told the production versions will be just like this, and if they are, then I have to give a big hats off to Olympus. It's a job well done. The final word. If you're a professional who's been on the fence for a while about whether or not to make the jump into the lightweight and compact world of the Micro Four Thirds cameras, and you shoot landscapes, architecture, or real estate photography, then your wait might finally be over. In my opinion, this is one of the finest lenses that I've ever used on any system. And as a real estate photography professional who literally shoots every day for a living, I can't wait to get my hands on one of these. So, to answer the original question, am I ready to move away from my big heavy DSLR camera and lenses and move to Micro Four Thirds for my real estate photography? I think I'm prepared to say yes. Yes, I am. I'm Darren Miles with Darren Miles Photography, based here in beautiful, sunny Naples, Florida. If you like these reviews, please don't forget to subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and until the next time, happy shooting.